All right, so a little bit ago, Jim announced that he's starting a cool, fun project to build up a site to 1 million page views a month.
A big one.
In 24 months, so that's going to be pretty huge. But I don't know why Jim gets all the fun.
That's not fair.
So, no, it's not cool at all. So I'm going to do my own project.
And I think it's going to be a good one.
It's a good one. I will say though, the topic, patent law, is not something most people would consider fun.
Yeah, so this is a site that we bought a little while back.
Yeah.
And it's one that I was initially really excited about. There's been a couple things that we're going to talk about here that make me a little less excited, but I think that overall it could still be a really successful site.
Absolutely. So here's this project. I am going to take the primary on this one, but we're going to take this website, patentrebel.com, and we're going to flip it. And over the course of this project, I want to walk you through what we look at when we are looking for sites to flip, our process for kind of revamping a site or getting it ready to be able to sell, and then selling that website. And so I think it'll be a pretty cool process. A lot of people ask us about flipping sites. It's actually, I think, something that you can get into. You can do it at all sorts of different levels, but there's some important things to look at when looking for an opportunity of a site to pick up. So that's what we're getting at today. So Patent Rebel, the initial look at this website, I wasn't really involved in. You were looking at sites. We were kind of in a buying phase.
Yes.
And so kind of tell me what the logic was and what we looked at with Patent Rebel.
So we were really interested in buying up a lot of smaller sites that we could flip pretty quickly. And so
that was months
ago. That was the plan, as you all know, plans change. So we were looking for sites that were a little bit cheaper, but something with low-hanging fruit, something that we could really make a quick difference on and then sell it for a higher multiple. And so Patent Rebel, as we were looking through it, doing kind of the due diligence there, it seemed to fit that mold.
This is pretty cool. Most people don't have this available to them. We have people apply to sell us their websites. And I get that that's not the case for most people. And so before we had that, when we were looking for opportunities, yes, we'd have to go to the different brokerages. You'd go to Empire Flippers, you go to Flippa, but you just got to be so careful. There's so much trash out there. And some of the best opportunities we found are people who just on their site had an advertisement that said, my site's for sale.
Yeah,
or even reaching out to site owners or joining communities. I hear all the time in some of the Facebook groups I'm in, people saying, I'm considering selling my site. So there are lots of places within the income school community.
Definitely.
You get people all the time. But in this case, so he fills out the application and it's high level like that.
Yes.
And we see it, we're like, okay, here's traffic. I don't even think you told us the revenue at the time.
Didn't tell us the revenue. So maybe a little bit of a breakdown here. So it had 120 aged posts on it. The site was started in June 2019, I believe.
Okay.
And I think eventually we found out that it was on AdSense making somewhere between $50 and $70 a month. So a fairly small site, lots of content. All of the content was aged, and we saw that a lot of the articles were ranking, a lot in the top one or two spot. But that's pretty much all we knew about it. It had about 10 to 12,000 page views a month when we first saw it.
Wow. And so when we look at that, quick math here, if we're talking 120 articles, and just let's say for easy math, 12,000 page views, we're talking about an average of about 100 page views per article. The opportunity you might see there on some sites, if you saw kind of a ratio like that, is if we got a lot of underperforming articles, man, we can battleship this thing. We can get these articles ranking higher and get more traffic. The problem is they're already ranking.
So a lot of them were in the top one or two spots. So they were already getting the max amount of traffic that we were going to see. That was a big problem for us. That was definitely one of the cons when we were looking back and forth on this site was, that looked originally like it was going to be something that we could kind of battleship and, get the articles ranking higher, but they were already ranking.
So looking at this from a flipping opportunity standpoint, we like to look for low-hanging fruit. And as far as the battle shipping aspect of it goes, it kind of fails the
low-hanging fruit test. It did fail that. And I think that another place that we look at when we are looking to buy a site to flip is the monetization. Now this was on AdSense, $50 to $70 a month. Easily could be moved on to a Zoic. And I think that we could definitely get some higher earnings there. And I think he had just moved it to a Zoic.
And with early numbers, we were averaging about $4 a day.
Yes, which ended up kind of working into our final calculation for the buying price.
Right, exactly. So When it comes to monetization opportunity, this one feels like a maybe on the low
Possibly, yeah. There was no affiliate things going on, and honestly, as we thought about it, we weren't really sure what affiliate could be done. But I think if we got creative, there could be something there.
I think so too.
We just haven't really dug in and looked at it.
Yeah. What else? I mean, what was it that made you think, let's go further down?
Well, so I really think that we were just in the buy site mode, which is a really bad reason to buy a site because you really need to take all of these factors into account. We had seen that there was an upward trend in some traffic.
Okay, so you're seeing traffic potentials, maybe just
traffic potential.
Leave it and it'll be okay.
Yeah, so we had seen over the few months before we bought it, I think that 8 months before we had bought it, the traffic was ticking upward. By the time we actually signed the contract, however, the traffic had started ticking back downward. And there's a couple of reasons we thought that might be happening.
It started actually in November, so we can't just blame the December algorithm update.
Right.
But we did see the traffic start to taper off again. Possibly what happened, it's hard to know for sure. But when content is being kind of tested by Google, it's going to move around in the rankings. It's going to start off a bit lower. Google's going to test it. And sometimes Google kind of overshoots where things are going to land.
Yeah.
And so it could be that some of the content that made it to number one kind of backed off to number two. And if that happens across enough of these 100 page view a month articles, you could see that start to take
Yeah, and I think that all of the 120 articles that he did publish were all published within, I think, the first 3 to 5 months.
Yeah.
And so it could have had a lot of momentum, but then as maybe Google retested and kind of got everything settling in the rankings, it just didn't settle as high.
So now, over the last couple of months, we're seeing 10 to 11,000 pages a month. So it dipped down lower, like in the 8, 7, 8, 9. In fact, we can look at the analytics here. Let me go back way back to let's go back to where it started, June 2019. Way back there, and look at this by month. To see what he's talking about, it just up. It's on this great upward trajectory. Looks like it's maybe about to hit that hockey stick of growth. And then November, just boom.
Yep.
December was this is users, so let's look at page views. Those are the numbers we've been talking about. Wow, look at that. I mean, September, and this was interesting. The number of users leveled off fairly well, but the page views dropped way down. So, I mean, what does that tell me? I mean, maybe he had writers working on this site, and their data was being tracked, and so they were getting a lot of page views that. And so this 9,800 might have actually been a more normal number. Dropped off in November, December, 7,000, and now here we are leveling off in this 10 to 11,000 range. May, as of the time of recording of this, on track to do again about 10,800. So that's what we're seeing traffic-wise across the board.
So I do have to say that originally when I first saw whether the traffic was dropping in December, I was checking in on the site, and I have to admit I was just kind of beating myself up over this site. Over the last few months, I am happy to see that some of the traffic is returning. Hopefully we can at least get back up to where we were.
Yeah.
And I think that we're kind of seeing a leveling out here, a plateau as far as traffic goes. So I think until we do something either with content, with monetization, until we change some things, I think we're probably going to see kind of a plateau there.
Yeah, I think so too. Other things that I'm going to look at when I'm vetting a site, I'm going to go into behavior, and I'm going to be looking at the content on the site, and it's going to tell me on this table. Normally we'll just show stuff, but this is a site that's not doing super well yet, and I really want to give it a fair shake.
Yeah.
So these you guys are seeing they're a bit blurred out. Normally I wouldn't do that. Normally we're just totally open, but I really do want to give this a fair chance. And so, but the number one article on this site over the course of the history of this site, as well as if I look at just over the last 30 days, has nothing to do with the main content of the site.
Very interesting.
So,
it is very, very interesting.
The main content is all about if I am looking into getting intellectual property rights, so trademarking, patent, that kind of stuff. The number one article is all about careers as patent lawyers.
Yeah.
This is a whole category of content that apparently has higher search volume.
Right. And so I think that should definitely play into our strategy. So that's something you want to look at
Absolutely.
When you're going to buy. And then I think that you also need to have a plan okay, this article is getting whatever, 10, 15, 20% of the traffic. Maybe I should do a couple other articles in that same area so that I can interlink and kind of build your interlinking strategy between articles so that you can really boost up the traffic in that area.
When I look at a site and I see that there is an article, maybe two articles that are bringing in a lot of traffic for the site, I think, okay, how can I now take that traffic and through interlinking get people to more of the articles on the site, get people to stay on longer, click on a second page. We've seen substantial boost to traffic just from putting a few links to other articles and just doing a good job of that interlinking. And so here, there's nothing else on the site to interlink to. So as I come out with a new batch of content to write, I'm definitely going to be writing some articles also in that same sort of space.
And if you need someone to write articles for you, I think I know a guy.
I know a guy, yeah. We got
another thing that I was thinking about, yeah, that's true. Another thing I was thinking about, so we've mentioned that we have like a little survey everyone enters their info into, and we get that not everyone can do that, but you can definitely ask the right questions when you are going to buy the site from somebody. So we definitely ask a lot about the site's history. What sort of, have you done link building? What sort of SEO tactics have you been using? All of these different little questions about the history of the site can actually be really important, because some of those things that have been done, if it's an older site a long time ago, they can definitely impact the future of the site.
Absolutely. So just looking through the site now, I guess what's the plan going forward? Because the reality is, and I guess maybe we give a little more of the backstory here, the seller wanted over $11,000 for this site based upon potential monetization opportunities, which, by the way, don't ever buy a site based on what the seller thinks it could do.
Right.
That's where your profit margin is in the stuff it could do when you put in the work. If they haven't done the work and proven that yet, they don't get paid for that.
Yeah.
And so you got to do it based on the earnings. So we offered him $4,000, which was a 32x multiple.
Yes, that's a 32x. Very fair, I should say, given
based on the basic earnings, not even the AdSense earnings.
Yes, so that was
really fair.
Yeah, that was based on potentially Zoic earnings that were nearly double what his AdSense earnings were. So it was a very fair valuation. I totally got it. It was way lower than what he wanted.
Absolutely.
And so he came back, he countered at 9.5. And I said, sorry, we're just going to have to pass. We just can't do that. And then we settled on 5, which ended up being a 40x multiple of the potentially Zoic earnings. It was too high. It was too high. Looking back, I think if it was now today, I probably would have passed on this deal.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is potential there. I think we're going to have to work a little harder for it. But I think it's a good case study for you, Ricky, to take on.
I think so too. It'll be a challenge because first of all, like trademark and patent law isn't actually that exciting of a topic.
Not really.
Not compared to outdoors and shooting and those kinds of things. But still, I think this will be a fun challenge to tackle. Because here's another thing. When we're looking at sites to buy, one of the opportunities is if you can get it for a relatively low multiple.
Yeah.
If I can get a site for somewhere in that 28 to 32 range, there's usually a pretty good chance I'm going to be able to do some things to it to make it sell for closer to that 40x range. And with the multiple, what we're talking about is multiple times monthly revenue or monthly profit, actually. The fact that we bought this already at a 40x multiple means we can't just flip it for a higher multiple. We can't, battle shipping, it's not going to do much. So now we're going to need to add content, and we're going to have to do some good search analysis to add some additional content to the site to bring the traffic up, because the existing content is already ranking well.
It's doing its thing. I think the existing content is where it is. I think unless we add some significant, really dialed in search analysis, add a good batch of articles, we just won't see a big increase in traffic anyway.
Exactly. So traffic and then monetization, of course. Working on getting the ads up there, trying to figure out something in the affiliate space. Maybe if we're doing some content around careers and universities, might be able to do some sort of lead gen with universities. There's some pretty good programs out there for that as well. This is where it's exciting to flip a website. Now, this one feels like a challenge. If right now it's earning $120, $125 a month, we paid $5,000 for it. Okay, if I can turn that 125 into 250, now I sell it for $10,000, I double my money.
Oh, yeah.
Now I either go buy another $10,000 site or two $5,000 sites, and I do that again. Doubling your money with a flip on a website like this is actually not that hard. If you can pull multiple levers and increase the multiple that you're selling it at, man, you can double your money.
The hardest part of a site, I think, is $0 to $5. 100% hands down. If a site can make $100, it can make $200. And I think if it can make $200, it can make $500. I just really feel like from that $100 to $1,000 range, if you just nail the monetization, get good content, I really think that we could do some big things. So I guess my big question for you is, have you set any of your goals for traffic or monetization or anything like that?
Not specifically. What I would love to do is I want to spend basically the next month working on it. So
Cool.
I'm going to go in and first things first, I'm going to do some search analysis. I'm going to look for some low-hanging fruit with topics surrounding the ones that are doing well on this site. And I'm going to order that content.
Cool.
Once that content's written, I'm going to work on the interlinking strategy. In the meantime, while that content's being written, although there's not much meantime, it comes back so fast.
It'll come back fast.
Anyway, in the meantime, though, I am going to work on some of the technical things. I'm going to get the site sped up. I'm going to just kind of get it honed into where I want it to be. I'd love to get this thing to, I said $250. Let's say more like $500 a month. That's not going to happen immediately. The new content's going to take time.
Yeah.
So after I've put in that work for about a month, then I'm just going to kind of let this thing ride for a little while. Once we kind of hit that $500 mark, or I decide that it's a lost cause, one or the other,
Right.
at that point, we'll choose to divest of the site.
Cool.
Sell it off to somebody who knows patent law a little better than I do and who wants to run with it.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. I think it's going to be awesome.
And we're
content.
going to keep you guys up to date on this project as we go. So I'll be giving regular updates about this and about just the whole process of flipping. I think it's really cool. I mean, here's one where I could get into it for $5,000. And yes, I'm going to order content and there's costs there. But you don't have to go that route.
Yep.
Really, just adding 10 or 15 well-positioned articles and improving the interlinking could do a lot. And that's something that you could do on your own and potentially double, triple, quadruple the income on this site. And now we take a $5,000 site and we sell it for $20,000.
Oh, yeah.